The name of our next book is The Lost Legacy of Ham, Ancient Bible History. It was written by Dr. Joyce Andrews, who was a minister and author of several other books. She died in 2021, but her message lives on through her followers like Yolanda Duriso. She joins me now to talk about this book, which is a sequel to Dr. Andrews' first book entitled Bible Legacy of the Black Race, The Prophecy Fulfilled. Now, does this book, The Lost Legacy of Ham, stand alone, Yolanda?
No, ma'am. It really needs, you really need to read the first book. That's my suggestion. It certainly did help me quite a bit. Now, they can get a whole lot out of the second book, but I would suggest that they read and they will really understand the struggle and where our African Black people are in the Bible. Because, they say, well, where are we, but
tell me what the books are about.
Yes, ma'am. There's 3. But now she wrote the problem, the Bible Legacy of the Black Race, her first book. And that first book is about the struggle, and God never starts anything with struggle. He's perfect. Our people messed it up. Okay. And it was a prophecy that for a period of time, nobody's going to know anything about our history. It was a prophecy because our people were the first when Noah got off the ark after the flood. Noah had 3 sons. He had Shem, that's the father of the Jews, Ham, the Black people, and the European white is Japheth. But Ham in the Bible shows that started civilization first. So that's what Sister Joyce is talking about, the lost legacy of Ham. Well, what happened? Why we don't know anything about where the Black people come from? And all we know, and when I was in Black history in my studies, all they taught us was about the struggle. And, I knew about Frederick Douglass and the abolitionists and all of those, Harriet Tubman, who made things better. But why did that problem, why was it there? And I found out it was a prophecy. God said, I'm not going to let nobody know about you, because when I let Ham get off that ark, he started civilization first. And that's in Genesis, the 10th chapter. And it shows that the Black people, and they were of color, they started civilization first, and they were very mighty in the land in the book of Genesis when you read that. And our people rule for more than 4,000 years. And it was a great era. But nobody knew about it because our people, because they were doing so great, they got into witchcraft. And I guess my little nephew, he says, they got into him, thinking they were all like that because they were most beautiful. They were the most spiritual at that time when they were in tune with Jesus. And they ruled, and the kings and the pharaohs, they just had the best of everything. More than 4,000 years, history says, okay? And our people fell away from the Lord. That's the big problem. And that's the story in Isaiah, the 19th chapter. That's her first book. And she talks about that. Our people were warned more than 144 years. Isaiah warned our people. That's a prophet, major prophet in the Bible. Ezekiel warned our people, if you don't come back to God, if you don't recognize that God is the one who blessed you with all of that glory that you have, I'm going to remove all of your history, and they're not going to know about your history for a period of time. That was a prophecy, not a curse, okay? And our people would not listen to the prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah. So when you read the Bible, even in Isaiah, the 19th chapter, 20th chapter, that's our story. You'll see where the Black people were warned. If you don't do this, I'm going to just, you notice now when you talk about Africa, it's dry. It's nothing there anymore. God said, I'm going to take all that away. But I do notice that people like John Anthony West, the Egyptologist, they and the others that are helping him, Peter Lesimur, they go over there and they dig up and they found all this great history that our people had back there. And we lost it. Our Black people lost it because they fell away from the Lord. and they would not come. God did, God knows the whole story. So he looked down in history and he said, well, they're not going to come back to me as a nation. And he moved on to the next son, Shem, which is the Jews. And Jesus was born a Jew. But Isaiah, the 19th chapter, tells our story why our people went through slavery. And he says, if you don't come back to me, he warned them, okay, in Isaiah 19, he said, I'm going to have a person from the north. They're going to be a cruel Lord, and they're going to take you over into a foreign nation with your buttocks hanging out. That's in the Bible. And they're going to take you over.
Now we go into the lost legacy of Ham.
Right. Now that book is telling us why the European white people were doing so great. What is it? This is their dispensation. God has been through all three of Noah's sons. Our Ham, he blew it. Shem, Jesus was born a Jew because it was time for Jesus to come. So the Lord said, I got to get all y'all saved, right now. So Jesus was born a Jew, but predominantly the Jewish nation does not believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Now there are a few elect Jews, because I hear the young man, he's a Jewish preacher, rabbi. He teaches and he preaches about Jesus. There are few elect Jews, the Bible calls them, that do believe in Jesus. But as a nation, they just don't believe. They're still looking for the Messiah. So, God doesn't wait for nobody. When it's time to move on, because he's interested in saving souls, keeping people out of hell, he moved on to the next son, which is the elder son, Japheth. And that's the European white people, okay? So that's why you hear about in Europe. I was listening to Billy Graham, and he's talking about the black people. And he says, we think that the gospel started in Europe, but it didn't. It started in Africa. And it's all on the Great Pyramids, okay? So this is what Sister Joyce is talking about, the lost legacy of Ham. She's bringing out in this book that the prophecy has been fulfilled. It's over. We got Jesus. And I think she does say it in the 19th chapter of Isaiah, and a great one is going to come. I really believe that was Dr. King, because he and his followers, they did the great work, to get us, get our rights back, okay, as black people. And he said, I'm going to send you a savior, and they're going to deliver you. And the prophecy is over. And the prophecy is over now. And that's what she talks about in the lost legacy of Ham. But we want our people to know, and this is what Sister Joyce would teach us, I want the African blacks to know their history. Because when you know your history, where you come from, you do very good in the present world. And we need to get this message out to the folk, which predominantly black, they tell me, in prisons and all of that. The Muslims are teaching them, but because the Muslims do not know Jesus, they're not able to go as high as they need to, because they just believe the Old Testament. But the whole Bible, we're under Jesus, the New Testament now. We need to know Jesus has delivered us. And when you got Jesus, as Sister Joyce had in her time, she used the Lord enlightened her to find all this history for her. She was a housewife. Her husband didn't want her to work. They had 4 children, and she was raising those children. That's why it took her so long to write her books. I asked her husband, how long did it take her? And he said about 16 years, because, she's raising 4 children. She was the pianist for the church. She played for 2 choirs, and, she's teaching at church all the time. She was our minister of education during that time. And she's the one who taught us all the history as she was doing all of her research. So he said he said about 16 years it took her just to write this book.
Well, Yolanda, you're doing a great job.
She taught me well. They did.
She did.
I tell you, I was so interested. I was so glad to know the truth,
But I just hope it's not used as an excuse.
For what?
When you see how black people have been treated over the years, yes. Is somebody out there going to say, see, they got what was coming to them?
But you know what? But our people did get what was coming to them, but it's over. Now, if we want to do better, now that's the part that we've got to be mindful of. If we as a black people want to do better, we can. And we know that. But look, we had a black president, so we know that we can do better. You can't say, well, the white people holding me back now. Jesus, if you got Jesus, you can do all things through Christ, which strengthens you. And we can make it. We can make it with the help of the Lord. But we got to stay with Jesus. And that's what Sister Joyce was always talking about. Our leader is Jesus first. If you follow him, you can make it through all the discrimination stuff. You got to deal with it. He says there are many afflictions of the righteous, but I have delivered you out of them all. So now, if you work with Jesus and ask him to help you, you can make it in this life as a Black person, even though you got to still deal with prejudice. If that's just gonna be here, like the Bible said, the poor gonna be with us all the time. But you don't have to be
Right.
poor. You can just be one that helped the poor. How about that? That's what I chose to be. I chose to be one that's gonna help the poor. Amen.
Yolanda, you are amazing. You must be a great
But you
speaker.
know what? I've been taught by the best. That's what I say.
With you at the helm, I don't think you'll have any problem getting this message out and getting these books sold.
And we're blessed because we have a TV Bible study every Sunday. So we have our book promotion there, and it's on YouTube. We have book promotion there because our program from her last book she wrote, Your Store Right Where You Are. I talk about that book. It's on YouTube, so anybody can view that. Your Store Right Where You Are.
You're awesome, Yolanda. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I do appreciate you